and thanks for joining us. I'm Deb Bullions,
And I'm Deb's partner on this project, Glenn.
and we're going to bring you some information about the Divine Plan Project. All right, so we'll give you a little background. It really does not matter who we are. You'll learn more about that in the coming sessions. This is the first of several sessions to get through all of the material. I will tell you that I have channeled much of this information, and Glenn has been the researcher, security and protection and strategist, etc., as we've worked through this project, which we'll tell you a little bit more about, just so that you understand this isn't about us, it's about the material. And that's why we'll just slowly tell you about us as the sessions go on, but make the material the forefront of importance. So, just need to tell you about our personal views before we get started. We are not aligned with, and we are not proponents of, any one religion or philosophy. We don't have any clear political leanings. We don't subscribe to any, being proponents of any parties or viewpoints. So, because of that, we're not going to talk to you about what to believe on those issues. So, if you're here trying to figure out what we think, you're not going to find it here. We're not going to give you advice on how to live your life. We're simply sharing what we've learned and over the course of this project today and what we've been asked to share. Everything that's been created for the new was considerate of all viewpoints, all philosophies, all religions, all political viewpoints, etc. So this has been a well-considered project.
And just for further context, when Deb refers to this project, we've been involved in it for the best part of 3 years.
Yes. Okay, so what is it? In brief, it's the promise made by the divine creators coming to life at last. And divine creators, we don't mind what you want to call them. So you can say God, you can say Alpha and Omega, because that's how they introduced themselves to us. Was we call them A and O sometimes, but Alpha and Omega. There is, oh my goodness,
Allah,
Allah, there is
Jehovah.
Jehovah, there are uh, Supreme Intelligence. We really don't mind what you wish to call it. We've said a few different names throughout this project, just to make everyone comfortable that it really, the label doesn't matter, but I think we all understand we're talking about that an intelligence that is far beyond anything that we could normally comprehend as humans.
Yeah, some of the tribal beliefs call it Mother, Father, God as well.
Exactly. Okay, so at this point in time, there are loads of risks to humanity and to all life forms on Earth and all beings across the cosmos. So there have been promises made by the divine creators over multiple millennia. There's been talk of a new Earth, a better quality of life, about being rescued, about being chosen, about regeneration. And those in the spiritual community are often speaking about the 5D becoming a reality here now. This particular project goes into full details about the new Earth, how it comes about, the life forms or avatars, the new structures, including social, economic, education, healthcare, beliefs/worship, terra firma, and there's so much more. Everything else that civilizations require for freedom and abundance. What we'll cover over this series, which we'll try to keep in bite-sized pieces. So we aim to give you sessions that are 20 to 30 minutes in length, so that you can consume this and process it at your own speed. If you decide that you find these recordings after everything has been uploaded and available that you want to binge watch, we'll go for it. We're just going to bring it to you in small bite-sized pieces. So what we'll talk about, the background, what the plan is, how it came about, what's happening now, some of the key criteria and context for the project, who the project team are, We'll talk through the consultation phases in both the realms, all of the realms, and the human consultation as well, and what the outcomes of those consultations were.
We'll talk about the designs for the new, the dimensions, the criteria for those dimensions, and the models for things like terra firma, governance, communities, financial systems, education systems, correctional systems, and guidance systems.
And then, of course, there's some new guidance that has been channeled through as well. There are some other general changes that will be discussed. We'll talk you through the status of the project now, where things are at, what's coming up next, some principles for working together, communication of these messages wider, and the 144,000. We have a lot to cover. We'll get straight onto it. So the threats. We were told that we are facing threats on an unusual level on many fronts, and they may compound each other. They might intersect and create unmanageable events or situations. And the core threats that they've spoken to us about are ecological. Mother Earth, Gaia, is in distress, whether or not you believe in climate change or natural change, regardless of how it came about. Temperatures are causing changes to weather patterns. Sea life is changing already and being impacted. Sea levels are rising. In populated places, there are some areas that reach temperatures of over 45 degrees Celsius, which, forgive, I don't have my conversion here, but I think in Fahrenheit, we're talking in excess of 110, 115 degrees regularly in areas that previously weren't experiencing that. Now, it doesn't sound difficult for us humans. We just think, what? Click on the AC, click on the air conditioning, right? But when you talk about species of plants and species of insects and animals that are part of our own food chain, not able to be afforded that same luxury of being able to cool themselves. And when you talk about changes to the temperatures in the sea that could actually wipe out parts of life within the oceans, then we start having a problem because the food chain is being interrupted. And we've seen in the past where ice ages have occurred and other wild natural phenomena that starts to impact everything all the way through to humanity and larger animals as well. The other risk,
There's also risks from volcanic activity, plate shifting, and earthquakes. You can see real life evidence of this right now in South Africa, where parts of the continent, huge, huge gaps, huge craters are appearing within the continent of South Africa, and it is separating. Um,
nuclear.
we've also got nuclear testing going on underground as well, which causes further disruption to the plates that are shifting already, and all these things are converging.
Yeah. And of course, we've got places like Italy, where they are some people who are experts in these subjects, and they are trying to warn the government. And the governments really don't want to speak about it, but there's so much more activity happening with the volcanoes there, and evidence of it coming up to the oceans as well. And it's not just in Italy, it's happening in more places around the globe all the time. Of course, there's political risks in Europe, Russia, Scandinavia, and other places around the world. They've already been for the last year or more warning people about the real threat of World War III, but not just that, the threat of nuclear war. And we know that so many people have tuned out of watching mainstream news. We understand that mainstream media, there are agendas, and there are, of course, big conglomerates, corporates, those with the money at the top of the ladder that sometimes control the narratives of what comes out. And we understand why people turn away from these things. Um, Glenn has his own sources that he has found across other places rather than mainstream. and he will share some of those sources with you because in this day and age, it's pretty important to keep your finger on the pulse, but actually get your information from trusted sources that you know are not being motivated financially. They're actually telling the truth because they choose to and because they have the means to actually gain the information. So we have technological risks as well. It is very clear that there is a race on for AI. Artificial intelligence has already been developed to replace foot soldiers, and if required in the not too distant future, those same intelligent robots can be used to replace us too. We've all been watching automation happen slowly since the end of the 1800s and on into the 1900s, and then obviously some pretty quantum leaps lately when we're talking about computer processing and artificial intelligence.
And then there's the intersection of AI and the nuclear threat, which we've also been warned of
Yeah,
at times.
exactly. So science fiction often becomes science fact as we look backwards in time. And all of these things, as well as we're going to talk more about the mystery key contributor to some of these risks in the next episode. But all of these things can converge, can intersect, and even one of these things could be catastrophic for humanity. So we need you to know we, the project team, are prepared, and today we'll show you just how prepared and how you can help too in the future. So, thank you. Still technological issue there. Okay, so Earth now. After multiple millennia, humans have yet to reach a point where ascension is the norm. There have been multiple resets, such as ice ages, floods, meteorites, and other large-scale resets. And it seems that in eras where balanced communities were emerging, those communities mysteriously disappeared. Lemuria, Atlantis, Mayan civilizations, other South American civilizations, and more. So where we're at with Earth now.
Where we're at with Earth now is essentially we are learning through pain. Um, there's no clear ascension paths. There's an imbalance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The leadership is self-serving and the political systems are failing, and the evidence of that is if you simply turn on the news at any point and look around, you can see it for yourself.
Yeah, so lots of promises are made. Not a lot is achieved, and it appears that systems of democracy have become locked up. And, parties make it difficult for each other to get anything done. And that was probably not the intention of most countries when they put democracy into action. But it doesn't appear to be working the changes that all hope for when new faces come in government, typically aren't followed through with. All right, so what's the Free Will Project? The Free Will Project is life now, life in the cosmos. To date, this is supreme intelligence. Again, call it what you want. The divine intelligence, the supreme intelligence, God, Allah, whatever you wish to call that. They've allowed free will to continue. It was a promise that at the beginning of creation of Earth, its inhabitants could do as they wished. It's pretty obvious. We all talk about karma, but how many of us actually see it play out in life, in our lifetime? And we think, oh, give you an example. Those people over there, they're just taking advantage of others. They're climbing over the backs of others. This will come back to bite them because they're not being good humans. At this point in time, most of the people who are doing that type of thing, which many of us can't bring ourselves to do, are getting ahead, not getting further behind. It seems that karma is missing, and I don't know that it was ever promised, not here on Earth. So it's been a free will project for the most part, and I'm so open for others to disagree. Perhaps you do see karma in action. I just haven't seen a lot of it myself. So it goes in line with what we've been told, that this whole Earth experience, as well as the cosmos experience, has been about free will. And that these beings of the divine intelligence have only interfered when it's really clear that the path taken by the large majority is either harmful because it's no longer contributing to the evolution of the souls or species, that the large majority are following a path leading away from the improvement of circumstances. They're creating further imbalance between the masculine and feminine, or they're putting Earth and its inhabitants at risk. And I think most of you would understand that all of those factors are at play right now.
And the free will also exists in the realms. It's not just limited to humanity. All of the realms have the same free will as humanity does.
That's right. Okay. So, even after the implementation of the matrix type structures created and implemented to perpetuate the illusion of separateness, we're all allowed to carry on. Everything experimental has been allowed. And even with every religion claiming to be the one way, still the experiment has been allowed to continue. We've seen the demonstration of the corruption of the light, or the good ones, if you will, including the falling of archangels and Elohim, and still the experiment has continued. So we're advised that there are, although there have been billions and billions and billions of souls that have experienced Earth, there's only been an estimated 110,000 ascensions. That means mastering every lesson that life has to offer and breaking free of any illusion and never having to come back again. Now, that's not to say that those masters, those who have ascended, don't come back again. But at that point, it is completely their will, and they believe that they have much to offer in many cases. So they choose to come back, but they don't have to. And 110,000 out of billions and billions and billions of lifetimes is not very many. Um, it's not a high graduation rate, is it?
No.
So the path to ascension over time, even with the restarts from the past, it's become further distorted rather than clearer. Most of us wouldn't know which paths to follow if we wanted to ascend or master living. So this is why we told you at the beginning, we don't sit in any one camp, one religion, one political corner or another, because now we need to talk to you about all of them.
Because while we don't sit in any one camp, we do observe and notice the commonalities in the different belief systems.
Yeah, so we'll just point out some of those commonalities now about the end time prophecies. So the promise of a great cleansing and restart has been said to be made by the Supreme Being or the divine intelligence, as well as by great seers. And it's can be found, this can be found in multiple texts, sacred texts, books, etc. So the Bible speaks of revelations, and the four signs mentioned that the red dragon would be part of Revelations, and 2024 was the year of the dragon. But there's a whole book dedicated to the end of times in the Bible. Thoth also had a prophecy. Thoth wrote the Emerald Tablets. We'll talk more about him later in future segments. But he talked about the fruits of the earth rotting, that the soil would be barren, and that the air would sicken and stagnate, and that things would be disordered. In Islam, the Quran speaks of an apocalyptic edge, especially the Meccan, the Revelations, when they expound that the end is near. In Judaism, they refer to the return of a Messiah. And Sunni believe that at the end of times, we'll see the return of Muhammad first and Jesus last. In Zoroastrianism, Ahura Mazda will ultimately prevail over the evil Angra Mainyu. Forgive my pronunciations, by the way. At which point, reality will undergo a cosmic renovation called Fresh Karate.
That's why she's reading this part because my pronunciations are worse.
Mine are not good. And that limited time will end. In Buddhism, they speak of being forgotten, Buddha being forgotten after 5,000 years, followed by turmoil, and then a Bodhisattva named Maitreya will appear. In Hinduism, the end of time occurs when Kalki, the final incarnation of Vishnu, descends atop a white horse and brings to an end the current Kali Yuga, completing a cycle that starts again with the regeneration of the world. In Taoism, a religious figure is prophesied to appear at the end of the world cycle to rescue the chosen people who would be distinguished by their Taoist practices. And there are many, many more examples of people talking about the end of time eventually
with
arriving.
with the same common themes being um, a new world or a new earth or new fruits,
Which we'll talk
which
about
we'll talk about.
now. So, what were these promises? There were some great promises made about what would happen in each of these different religions or thought sets. And here are some of them. And as Glenn was mentioning, there's some commonality. So in the Bible, in Revelations 21:1, John sees something spectacular and he says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away." In Thoth's prophecy, everything will be renewed. In Islam, promises that everyone will be resurrected, held accountable for their deeds, and sent to the space in the universe relevant to them. In Judaism, they state that God will create a new heaven and earth. The Sunni or Sunni believe in the arrival of a messianic savior, such as the Mahdi or Jesus, who, along with divine intervention, will restore justice. In Zoroastrianism, humanity will become like the Amisha Spentus, living without food, hunger, thirst, weapons, or injury. Bodies will become so light as to cast no shadow. All humanity will speak a single language and belong to a single nation with no borders, and all will share a single purpose and goal, joining with Ahura Mazda for perpetual and divine exaltation. In Hinduism, they talk about a cycle starting again with the regeneration of the world. And in Taoism, the chosen will be rescued. So you can see that they're all talking about there are better things that do happen. So, yep, bad things and then better things come afterwards. Now, again, we've talked to you quite a bit about the end and the prophecies, but this is not all about that. This is a good news project, so just bear with us. We do have to talk about, as with anything, there's the birth, death cycle in life, and that sounds scary, but that is just what we all are faced with in our existence every day. And of course, it's going to happen here too. So, good news is coming now. Now, in our next episode, we're going to give you more information about who we are, why we're involved, and who else is involved in making these things happen, especially those from the realms. We'll give you a little more context about why this is happening, and we'll give you a really high-level overview of the new. And again, further out in the future, you'll get full details about the new as well. We warmly welcome questions, and please pop them into the comments if you wish. And we look forward to bringing you more information in future episodes. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.